YouTube yet. They said it's not on YouTube yet, Kevin. I guess it takes some.
She's not muted yet, no.
Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. We've got our Keystone with Kenny with special guests Johnny Bench and Steve Cauthen. Kenny, I'm going to pass it over to you and let you take it away.
Well, thanks, Kevin, and want to welcome everyone to our second Keystones with Kenny virtual happy hour. Once again, we're coming to you live from the Keystone Light studio from my garage in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I want to thank Chris from Stagnero in Cincinnati Distributing, and also Deanna with Molson Coors for sponsoring this. We kind of shamed him into it after we kept calling it Keystones with Kenny. And I want to kind of, this is for you, Chris. I don't know how you're doing in Cincinnati, but you can hardly find Keystone Light here. It's taken off. People are hot on Keystone Light right now. Don't forget to go to KenAndersonAlliance.org to buy your raffle tickets. Remember, we're raffling off one of my signed jerseys. We've also got kind of a unique helmet. It's half the old style, half the new style that I've signed. Christy and I are going to take 4 people to dinner at Walt's Hitching Post, and we've got 4 Ultimate Airline shuttle tickets. So you can go to KenAndersonAlliance.org and buy your raffle tickets. And remember this, we're going to have a trivia question. Actually, 2 of them, since we have 2 guests. And if the first correct answer to info@KenAndersonAlliance.org is going to win a 1981 MVP t-shirt of mine. Everybody else gets a Ken Anderson Alliance hot cold cup. Last week's trivia question, if you remember, for Chris Collinsworth is what NCAA record does he hold? And he threw a 99-yard touchdown pass as a freshman, which is tied for the longest in NCAA history. Our winners were Jeremy Conley. And Jeremy, I apologize. We did not have the correct size for you in our Keystone Light t-shirt. I have called the distributor. We're trying to get more in. We'll take care of that. The other winners were Nancy Spivey, Steve Baldwin, one of my golfing buddies, is sitting right over here to my left, and Kay Mertz. So we got a loaded show tonight. In a little while, we're going to be joined by Triple Crown winning jockey Steve Cauthen. I can't wait for his insight on the Kentucky Derby. But now for our first guest. Wow. He played for the Reds from 67 to 83. A 14-time All-Star, 2-time NL MVP, 10 Gold Gloves, twice led the league at home runs, the only catcher in history to do that, 3 times led the league in RBIs. He caught 100 or more games in 13 consecutive seasons, elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1989. Please welcome my friend Johnny Bench. Johnny, great to have you with us.
Hey, Kenny. Okay, so we don't have the right size in the t-shirts.
No, we're working on that. I called Chris at the distributorship. He's working on getting that done.
So it's Ken Anderson Alliance. What is that now?
.org.
.org for the raffle tickets. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, I got to ask, I'm starting off this way with you, Johnny. You've always been known, even, as a high school kid when the Reds drafted you, as a great defensive catcher. You sign out of high school, you go to Tampa, then you spent 2 years with the AAA team in Buffalo. Is that correct so far?
No.
Okay, well, my research told me that in Buffalo, before you called up to the Reds, for the 2 years, you only hit 163. Any truth to that?
No.
Okay, let me go on to the next one.
Who's doing the research? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
It was me.
After 12 Keystones, Kenny, do not do your own research, all right?
I guess that. Okay, well, let me start.
Here's the deal. Okay. I was a pitcher. Everybody knew I was a catcher, but I was a pitcher. I was 84-3 lifetime pitching in high school and junior high. I never lost a game until I was 16 years old. Everybody knew I was a catcher, but we only had 10 boys out for the baseball team, and one of them was the scorekeeper. So we that would catch but wouldn't play third. So when I didn't pitch, I was playing third. It was strange, but I actually took infield as a catcher before I pitched, so the scouts could watch me. And just by sheer fate, I was drafted by the Reds. The scout who loved me the most was a Chicago Cub named Billy Capps. And so I went to Tampa, Florida. Next year, I was in a higher Class A in the Carolina League called Hampton Newport News, the Peninsula Grays. I got called up to Buffalo at the end of '66 in August. I caught 3 batters. I was there for the first inning, 3 batters. foul tip, broke my thumb. And then the next year I was in Buffalo. I hit 260, something like that. I didn't hit 163. I hit 167 when I got called up to the Reds at the end of 67. And that was about it.
Now, you mentioned breaking your hand, but I think wasn't it 66 you started using that hinged baseball glove? I think you and Randy Hundley with the Cubs were the only ones using that. And, how did that kind of change the catching technique?
Well, in 66, I broke my thumb that first inning in Buffalo. I got called up by the Reds in the end of 67. I was still using the round glove. And I was trying to pick off a guy at first, and Glenn Beckert reached out and foul tipped the ball and split my thumb wide open. And as a result, I said, this is really stupid. This is twice I've broken my thumb in 2 years or split it. And so I said, there's got to be another way. At that time, Randy was using the hinge glove. So was Elston Howard, I believe. And so I went to the hinge mitt, and that's where I took the padding out of the glove and did it and started putting my hand down out of the way. And in 1966, in the Carolina League, I didn't think I was supposed to make it out. And I'd get upset when I made an out, and I'd come in the dugout and we had a concrete floor, and I would throw my helmet down on the concrete and it would crack. And I had to buy a new helmet. It's $35 helmet. And so, I'm making $550 a month, and I've broken 3 helmets now. So I've lost $105, and I'm not, that's pretty good money from a boy who picking cotton in Bangor, Oklahoma for 2 cents a pound. So one day I'm watching a game of the week, and Sherm Lawler was out of the lineup, but he was on first base coaching, I think, and he had his helmet and he had it on backwards. And so I'm thinking, wait. So I go to the park and I put the helmet on backwards, and I put the mask on. Now, in those days, the elastic would sweat and it would stretch. And when I threw to second, the mask would actually go across my face and cut my nose. And those foul balls would just hammer you. In fact, they always said, get lower, and you had to bend your head and everything else. And that's where most of my hair actually went, foul ball. So I took a ball and started pounding it when I had the mask on and the helmet, and you couldn't even feel it. It absorbed everything. And so from that day on, I started wearing my helmet backwards. So then the hinge glove became a part of my catching. And now today you see hockey helmets, but a lot of the guys are going back to the regular helmet like that.
Well, you hit the ground running your rookie season. I mean, you're named Rookie of the Year, the first time it was ever given to a catcher. Could you sense then, Johnny, that the Reds were building something special?
Well, we had such great guys. I mean, when I came up, here was Darren Johnson, here was Pete, here was Tony Perez, Lee May, we had Tommy Helms, we had Veda Pinson, and they were all good. They were really good, and the pitching was always a little bit, but we had Maloney, and there's no better pitcher than Maloney. I can guarantee you that ever. The right-hander, I'll put him up against anybody. And we had a demon. So all of a sudden, we were close, but then Bob Howson decided to make that trade with Houston, which proved to be the difference in what we became. But in 1970, we won 70 of our first 100 games. We had a kid named Wayne Simpson that I've never seen anything like his stuff. He was 12-1 at the All-Star game. He lost one game by 1-0. Great athlete, and then he hurt his arm. We went to the World Series against the Orioles. We lost in 5 games, but by that time, we had to use Tony Cloninger as a starter. We had to use people that weren't against the Oriole team that had 420 game winners, which was, they were stacked against us. But yeah, we were starting to do it. But in 71, we didn't do well. And that's when, we got Morgan and of course, Jack Bellingham, who won 19 games twice. And Dennis Makey over at third, Eddie Armbruster. But Cesar Geronimo in center field was so solid. I mean, it was unbelievable to watch him day in and day out.
And in 1970, your first World Series appearance, you were the NL MVP. I mean, that had to be just a special year for you guys. I mean, not only for you, but the Reds going to the World Series.
Well, how much, the Reds, Cincinnati loves baseball to begin with. And it had been a long time since they'd had really one. They had a World Series in 61 when the Yankees played and the Reds played. But yeah, we were starting, everybody, we caught it, we sort of got everybody's imagination. We captured it in the 70. And of course we had Pete and I was doing my thing and Tony was doing his things. And here, but when Joe came over, And really, we had 4 Gold Glovers up the middle. Dave Concepcion developed into one of the best shortstops ever in baseball. And we had Cesar and myself and Joe, all Gold Glovers. And then we had Tony driving in 90 runs or more for 11 seasons, and Pete winning batting titles. It was an amazing team. And there was not, we could have had the worst egos in the world, but we all got along. I think the greatest thing was we all respected each other, and we had one common goal, and that was to win.
And what does Sparky play in that era as the manager? Kind of keeping everybody, together, because, you say everybody gets along, but when you guys had stars. I mean, you talk about you and Morgan and Rose. I mean, everybody was a star. That's got to be kind of hard to manage all those personalities.
Well, when Sparky came over, I walked out of spring training, and the first day of spring training, I walked out of the clubhouse down on the lower fields, and Sparky stopped me. He said, "Johnny, can I ask you a question?" I said, yes, sir. And he said, "What batting practice over there, infield over there?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, he thinks I have a brain. He really does think I have a, but, players and management were this far apart. Management was up here. They did all those things. But Sparky's asking me my opinion. And then he started by asking Pete, Joe, Tony, and myself. Now, we would go into collectively. The 4 of us would go into his office, and we would talk about certain players or certain trades or certain things that were going on. And he would call us in a lot of times individually just to talk. And it was just sometimes just chat. I talked about his family. I talked about his kids. I talked about, certain things. But, Sparky, who was Sparky Anderson? Nobody had ever heard of a Sparky Anderson. He was a coach. He played in Philadelphia a little while. He got a cup of coffee. He barely hit 200. But it's like, then he started managing. And then he was 2 to 3 innings ahead of the other guy in the other dugout. And all of a sudden it was like, this guy really knows what he's doing, because first of all, we knew what we were doing. We were highly intelligent players you're going to have on a team. And he wanted to know. He didn't think he had all the answers. He wanted to know. But man, we respected him. And once he gained the respect of us, let's face it, Kenny, we had black leadership, we had Latin leadership, we had white leadership. And we took care of everything within that clubhouse. And you remember Ted Marchibroda, when he was with Baltimore, and I'm sitting on a plane with him, and I explained, he said, "What makes you guys so successful?" And I said, "None of us know what color any of us are. We're all the same, and we've got one common goal. But if you have a problem, you were a Latin player and you had a problem, you went to Tony." But they looked at all of us, and if it was time to be on the field, we were on the field. If it was supposed to be on the bus, we were on the bus. If we were on the plane, we were on the plane. So nobody could say anything because we represented and we were the leaders. And a leader doesn't have to be boisterous or anything else. They've got to be the guy out on the field doing the same thing every day. And if we're doing it, how can they say, "Well, why should I not do it?" So they've got some. But Sparky was a friend. He was a mentor, and he was a manager, and he was great at all of them.
Now it's time for our first trivia question of the night. And Johnny, don't give this answer away, because we're going to give it a little bit later. But
research on this one too?
Yeah, I did. I hope this one's correct, because you're known to have huge hands. And there's a classic photo where you're pictured holding a bunch of baseballs. And so the question is, how many baseballs was Johnny Bench holding in that photo, which may be a record? And we'll have that answer a little bit later. Remember, the first correct answer to info@KenAndersonAlliance.org gets a 1981 MVP t-shirt. All the other correct answers get a Ken Anderson Alliance hot cold mug. So you're in the World Series of '70. You're back in '72, but to get to the World Series, you're playing the Pirates, and it's the last game. It's the 9th inning, and and all of a sudden you're trailing when you come up in the 9th. You hit a home run to tie it, and you go on to beat Pittsburgh to go to the World Series. People have called it one of the great clutch home runs, of all time. And when you get in a moment like that, kind of what's your mindset that lets you kind of operate it and perform with that pressure?
Well, I had told somebody in the 3rd inning, I think it might have been Gary Nolan or somebody, that I was going to make a difference in the game. And what it was, I don't know. So I'm leading off I'm leading off the ninth inning, and I'm in the on-deck circle. Now, I already know that I've got a spot on my lung. I know they're going to go in and have surgery in the off. And very few people knew that. My mother was one of them, of course, my dad. And I'm in the on-deck circle, and I'm loosening up to bat. And Johnny, and of course, you never turn around at any time, look in the stands. And they said, "It's your mother." And I turned around and looked at her, and she smiled, and she said, and I said, "I know," she said, "hit me a home run." And she said, I said, "You know what you have to do." Same thing, I guess. And I thought, boy, I wish it were that easy. Well, Dave Justy was the pitcher. And I remember talking to Ron Santo, one of my dear friends, and of course, the third baseman of the Chicago Cubs. He said he'd been out playing golf, and he came in, and he just at the end in ninth inning, and he said, "What's the score?" He said, "It's 2-1, the Pirates, and they just brought Dave Justy in." And he said, "Well, it's over." That's how good Justy was. I mean, with that palm ball and everything else. And of course, I hit one foul. I mean, maybe 15 or 20 feet foul into the second deck. And Ron said, "Mo, he's getting it up." And then, of course, the great call by Al Michaels, the 1-2 change hit to deep right field back. Oh, she's gone. And you know, there's echoes. There were still echoes in Riverfront from that night. And you know, so there was said a lot of people had left the stadium, and the noise was so loud that they were up on Fountain Square, and they came running back. And we went on a wild pitch, and yeah, that was. In fact, I was just day before yesterday. I found the poster. It's called The Home Run, and I don't think I've ever had it. And I picked it up, and I'm getting it framed, and it'll go on my wall with the rest of my other stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned that's when they found the spot on your lung. And what was it like for you? I mean, a young guy in his prime, and to kind of get, you know, news like that.
It was difficult. I mean, this is August. This is our normal physical, and they took the X-rays, and they said, "Do you need to go back up there?" So they went in, they took another X-ray, and they said, "Wait in the waiting room." And they said, "Well, we need to take another one." I said, "What's going on?" "Well, there's a couple. It didn't come out as clear as we wanted." So I go back out, and then they come back out and said, "Well, look, we want to take this graph X-ray." And I said, "Wait a minute, it's brand new." So they would graph it. It would like layer out the lung, and so they said, "Well, we think we found a spot on you." I had been to Bakersfield, California, and that's where the San Joaquin, and of course we call it the San Joaquin Valley fever. It's also coccidioides mycosis, which is the airborne fungus that you breathe. And it's amazing the number of people. There's a Tennessee bird spot. There's an Ohio Valley spot. People have spots on their lung, but they did the bronchoscopy. They did tuberculosis. They did the histoplasmosis. They did a bronchoscopy, which they couldn't find out anything. So we're going to have to go. So I became the first staple surgery in America. Dr. Luis Gonzalez out of Christ Hospital. And he did what was never been done before, was the staple surgery. So he only cut me from the middle of the chest to around back where my lat muscles start. And usually they cut all the way around the back and separate you. But he was able to do this surgery, and as a result, you know, it affected me. I wasn't Johnny Bench anymore. I mean, I was, you know, I always talk about this is the difference in greatness right there. If you hit the ball out here, you're great. If you hit the ball back here, you're pretty good. But it was just getting there. So they cut the nerves, the muscles, the ribs, they separated them and everything else. So, but at that time, I didn't know if I was going to play again. And I was a fatalist. I mean, I had been to the White House, I'd been to the All-Star games, I'd been in the World Series, and I had done so many things, and I understood if I wasn't able to play again, there had to be something else out there that I was going to do. So I had done a lot of things with Bob Hope and some entertainment and doing some TV shows. So I don't know that, except I knew there was a chance that I might not play again. But obviously the surgery was very successful. I didn't have the numbers after that I'd had before, but I was blessed that I had a great surgeon and things worked out.
Well, we just were contacted by Julie Mills, one of the people that's watching us on YouTube. And she wants to know, now that you're retired, what are you doing in your spare time?
Well, I have Bobby's 30, my oldest son, and then Josh just turns 11 on Sunday. and Justin's 14. They're in the 6th and 9th grade. They're actually in class at school down here in Florida. And so today I took them to school because it's a week on, week off thing with their mother now, but she's out of town. So I took them to school, then I picked them up. I had a lunch and then I picked them up, took Justin to get a haircut, took Josh to get a smoothie, dropped them off. Tomorrow I'll do the same thing. I've got a meeting for I have a golf tournament down here for an academy called Believers Academy for at-risk kids. And I have a meeting with them tomorrow, and then I'll pick them up, and then we'll come home and we'll play ping pong. And then the birthday party's on Sunday. So you know what? If I get up at 5:50, I get them up at 6:25. I cook their dinner, breakfast. I get their lunches ready. I take them to school. I meet up with my buddies for breakfast. I pick them up again. Then we come home, and then it's whatever we're going to have for dinner. I'll make steak and salad, or we have pasta and all the stuff. So my life is pretty darn full. I mean, I'm blessed, and I think I'm staying pretty young for this old body.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I missed this year is that you and Doug Flynn have a great charity tournament in Lexington, the Children's Charity Classic, and that's had to be postponed, but that's always one of the really fun weekends that we all get together.
Yeah, we may have to get you. We do so well, though. I got involved with 16 years ago when Bobby Nichols has a tournament. He called because I was a member with Fiddlesticks over in Fort Myers. And he called me and said, I want to do a tournament, Bobby Nichols Invitational, and I'm not going to do it unless you're my co-host. I said, Bob, I'm in. So we've raised, in 16 years, we've raised over $10 million. This last 2 years, we've raised $2,160,000 that goes to abused women and children and to backpacks. And then I just came back last week from a group we call Hope for the Warriors. And I'm involved with them. And 70% of our money now goes to the PST, and these guys, when you see them, they've got 3 or 4 different prosthetics. They're and they still want to go back. They still want to serve our country. They want to represent us. They love our country. And, it's really special for me to see these guys and to be involved with them. So I stay with them and I do some things. So and then we have the College Catcher of the Year Award and High School Catcher Year of the Award, which we now do in West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky. My son, Bobby, he takes care of putting all of that together. And we've included now the high school softball and baseball.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, really special. And so we had to go virtual this year. Kenny, it turned out great. I mean, these kids were on there. I was able to, to interact with them. It was the best. Is Christy filling up that can, or what in the hell is going on
Well, it's
here?
still the same one. I'm just nursing it. I'm nursing.
Not the same one. Believe me, people watch this stuff. They're watching.
Oh, okay.
Arrows are keeping count of this.
Yeah. Now this is a different year for baseball. How do you see how things are going? There's no fans, and it's different. What's your take on it?
World's different, Kenny. I mean, I'm saddened by what's going on. I'm saddened by the fact that what's happening in our cities. I'm saddened by the fact that, so many things we're trying to change our country and the history of our country. And, I'm sick of it because I'm worried about my future for my kids, being 11 and 14 years old. And it's just as important for them and what their future is and everything else. And, I'm part of that. Let's make America great again. And I'm just, I understand people, and I understand if you don't like the man for what he says and tweets and does and everything else, but when somebody cares enough about, maintaining what we've got and even getting better, I'm all for it.
This was a unique year for the Reds. They went out and they spent a lot of money in the off season, and all of a sudden you don't have the full season for that maybe to pay off. But they're not bad this year.
Well, it really is. I mean, Moustakas really doing well, and he's in the lineup. It's like everything else, but we've just got some holes. We got in a lineup you have to have continuity. We call it putting up the crooked numbers. That means getting 2 to 3 or 4 runs rather than just 1 or 0. And we need the crooked numbers, and they don't sustain rallies because we've got holes in that lineup. I mean, there should be 4 or 5 guys, the best hitters, all pounding it together and then try to mix somebody else in. But the pitching's been pretty good. The bullpen has let us down again as usual. It seems to be because we haven't developed it. And I think everybody got their hopes up so high. And now with the problems going on and everybody, and the flag and all the stuff and, and solidarity and all the things that go with it, it's a tough year. It's a tough year all the way around. And we know it's a unique year. But the one thing that really people look forward to is baseball being played again. And whether the fans are in the stand right now, that has nothing to do with anything. If these guys, it's playing and it's a sprint and everybody's got to do it. I mean, you got to win. Well, we just see the White Sox win their 9th in a row. The Giants win 7 in a row. So, I mean, all you do is have a winning streak of 7 to 8 or 9 games. And the thing the Reds are doing are playing their division rivals, and they're not doing well again. And when you see tough losses, when you're not shutting them down or you're only getting 2 or 3 hits a game, that's hard to compete against. So, yeah, I mean, we want them to win. It looks sad right now, and what's going to happen is we're going to have a 5 or 6 winning streak and then get everybody back to where they are. Because if not, we'll be back to the situation where now everybody's not happy with anything that's going on.
A lot of added, I guess, responsibility, pressure on the players because of COVID. We saw what happened, with Cleveland. They're on the road, and a couple guys say, "Hey, well, we're in Chicago. Let's go out someplace." And all of a sudden, now they got to be quarantined. I mean, that's got to be tough on the player. Especially baseball, because you're on the road, and they think you're going to be on the road and cooped up in a hotel, but that's the way you got to live your life.
Well, that's what happened early the very beginning when Miami, a couple of their players went out to Atlanta when they played the exhibition. Here they are doing it. And, honestly, I don't know anybody's got it, and that's the thing I'm doing. I'm with my friends and everything else. And we're living our lives and nobody's coming down with the COVID. And so all of a sudden we're testing and these tests, I don't know. I think I'm something like everybody else. I'm still trying to figure out whether these tests, I mean, we had a group down here. We got a lab down here in Florida that's tested. Everybody they've tested has been positive. Not one person has been negative. That's not possible. We had 6 nurses that they gave them swab kits and said swab. They didn't swab. They turned it in. They all tested positive. I had a group of people right now. I was talking to the receptionist up at the school. She had friends that went in to take their test. The line got so long. They had already enrolled and registered and everything else. They left. They didn't even take their test. They all tested positive. I'm just, I wish I had the answer. I wish I had some Midas touch or Oral Roberts healing power that could do that. But it's been tough on everybody.
I tell you, when I, think of you, and I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a long time, but I think one of the special times that I had with you was back in the mid-'70s when they used to have that American Airlines golf tournament, and a baseball player and a football player from the same city played together. And that was always so much fun.
It was best, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we held our, I think we took 3rd.
We did. We were a good team. I mean, we were fun and it was great. And they did it first class, and they did it upright, but they made it to where it was really enjoyable. And we were, needless to say, very competitive.
Yeah.
It was you carried us the whole way.
Well, I don't know about that, but the thing that I remember about was Joe DiMaggio and Otto Graham were a team, and they get to know them, and that's why I got a chance to meet some of the ball players, Bobby Mercer and Lou Piniella, and those guys. It was just, it was kind of nice back in those days. There was a chance for the baseball players, the football players to get together.
Well, one of the things that broke that up was they had it. Remember when they had it down in San Diego or Palm Springs? It was San Diego maybe, and they had the open bar. You just signed for whatever you drank in the bar.
Huh?
Well, it was like a convention. I mean, everybody was in there and everybody signed their checks. And a lot of these guys, everybody knew somebody from LA or somewhere. They all came down. They drank free. There was a $110,000 bar bill.
Oh.
And then
I drink cheap stuff, Johnny, just so you know.
Wait a minute. Keystone's not cheap. It's affordable.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, and so then they started passing out little chits so that you had to get to get your drink. Boy, that slowed things down a lot. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to do that with you. I mean, you've been a great supporter for us down at the Children's Charity Classic, and what you do for your foundation is truly wonderful. And to do this for your alliance, it's amazing. Do people know where all this money goes?
Yes, we're creating live, work, and engage opportunities for adults with developmental disabilities. And as soon as I say goodbye to you here in a minute, Kevin and I will talk about that a little bit before we bring our next guest on. But now it's time to see if anybody's going to win a Ken Anderson 1981 NFL MVP T-shirt. How many baseballs, Johnny, did you have in your hand?
7 or 9, let's say.
What's that?
The answer is 5, 7, or 9.
Well, what is it? 5, 7, or 9? The one that it's got to be one or the other.
Sure. But I'm just saying that's what people come up to me all the time, and they say you could hold 5, you could hold 9, you could hold 7. And you know
what I researched, and my research has been faulty so far, was 7. 7 is the correct answer. You know what I want to know, Johnny? What's the big deal? I got 8 right here.
For that, what's that brown stuff? Is that glue?
Oh, shit. They're staying together pretty good. But I just, it cost me $24 for that little moment right there, but I feel really good about it.
Having this work in your garage. Yeah, that's
I know. Hey, Johnny, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I hope we can do this again. I didn't get to half the questions that I wanted to ask you, and maybe you can come on again and do it with me.
Yeah, we'll just go quickies. You ask the question yes or no, like your research. I'll help you with the research next time.
Oh, well, what I'll do is next time I'll send you it ahead of time so you can correct me about all the stuff that was not true.
Picture behind you, great or what? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I've got even a better one on my wall that you signed to me, so which I've always appreciated. But tell the boys I said hi. Take good care of yourself, and can't wait to see you soon.
You bet. Hey, give my best.
Hey, Johnny.
Yo.
Johnny. Hey, before we go, I've got some viewers here that would like you to stand up and show us your shirt.
Oh, this is actually Kenny would love this, but Kenny knows there's a group down at Lexington called the Greenbrier Bad Boys.
Yeah.
And so they come out, and if you play on their team, they all dress in these shirts, and they give the pro that they're playing with or celebrity they're playing with. And this is, and I wore it especially for Kenny because I knew he comes down to our event. And yeah, I mean, we just,
all right.
It's Florida, man. It's live. It's fun.
And once again, it's Johnny Bench making a fashion statement.
That's all. That's all.
Right.
It's still in the COVID thing where you wear your shorts and your shorts and everything else. So it's like I am a Beau Brummel all the way, my friends.
All right. Well, you take good care of yourself. I'm glad the boys are in school, so you don't have to homeschool them, because I can't figure out the math they teach nowadays. So I'm glad they're back in school.
Yeah, pie or round, okay, not pie or.
Christy just said she loves the shirt too.
Thanks, Christy.
All
Another
right.
beer, please. He's starting to lose.
All right, thanks, Johnny, for being with us. We appreciate you getting a standing ovation from our crowd here in my garage. And we haven't even given them the hot dogs yet.
They'll do anything for a hot dog. Believe me.
You're telling me.
All right.
All right, thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, wait, my executive producer now here is changing. Changing. But hey, Kevin, real quick, tell people about our retail shop that we've got on our website, KenAndersonAlliance.org.
Yeah, so we have a wonderful retail shop. If you go to KenAndersonAlliance.org, you can look at new products. And there we sell a lot of our sports memorabilia signed by Kenny and a lot of neat items. But then we also have quite a few items made by adults with disabilities that we support in our programs. And they're for sale there. And all the proceeds go to support our programming and our work training.
Again, which is creating live, work, and engage opportunities for adults with developmental disabilities. But also that retail shop also is a source of employment for some of our adults.
It is. We currently, just in-house here, we employ 2 adults to help us with that program, just hired on a 3rd. And it's a great opportunity, especially with COVID right now, because it is online sales. We're able to employ adults with disabilities in unique ways. They can utilize assistive devices and technology from home to perform the job duties that normally might need to be done in place in the office. And it's a great opportunity to use this to take advantage of technology and help promote some great products.
Before I get to our next guest, I got it. One of my neighbors showed me, John Summers, who's my Irish friend, and he's talking too loud, and it's hard for me to hear, so I got to shut him up a little bit. Oh,
Give him
okay.
some Jameson.
I know. But now I tell you what, with the Derby coming up next week, I'm really excited for our next guest joining us. And, in 1977, at the age of 17, only his second year of riding, he was the nation's leading jockey with 487 wins. He was the first jockey to win $6 million in a single season. Of course, in 1978, he was the youngest jockey to win the Triple Crown aboard Affirmed. And as the same year was the only jockey to be named Sportsman of the Year. He's the only jockey to win both the Kentucky Derby and Europe's Epsom Derby. He's in the Racing Hall of Fame. He's officially nicknamed the Kid. It's the great Steve Cauthen. He's with us tonight. Steve, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Ken, great to be here with you as well.
So,
You got me?
So how you doing up in Verona? Things going good?
Everything's going great, yeah. No, the weather's been good. The horses are doing good. Racing a few, raising the kids. Well, they're not kids anymore. But yeah, everything's good, and it's great to be with you.
Now, you burst on the racing scene at 16. What was the key
Right.
to your success? I mean, getting into it at such a young age.
Well, I was around horses all my life. My father was a blacksmith. I had two uncles that were trainers. My mom was trained a little bit as well. And I was raised on a farm. But really, to be quite honest, until I was about 12, I wanted to be a football player. But I played on a Pee Wee League team that summer. And at the end of that summer, I realized that I wasn't big enough to outrun those guys. So I started focusing on, I thought about what I could do. And I used to go with my dad to the racetrack all the time, hold horses and do all that stuff. And we had ponies when I was a kid. But I read a book called that Eddie Arcaro had written, I Ride to Win. And, it's like you say, it's kind of what it just set my mind alight that, I thought, wow, that just sounds fascinating. I'd like to try it. So I went to my father and I asked him, I said, Dad, do you think that's possible? And, so he said, well, hey, all I can tell you is I'll help you every way I can. And that was the beginning of the journey. I worked on a farm for a couple of summers breaking yearlings, which was like the greatest experience ever. Cause I hit the deck, on more than one occasion, but I learned so much, from, because, you're forced to learn to try to think like a horse. And I think that's one of the best things that, I learned was trying to get into a horse's mind and try to understand how they're feeling so that I could try to help them, get through the scary parts for them, and get their confidence. And once you've got their confidence, they'll go through a wall for you. So, that was probably, one of the biggest things for me.
Well, I've never understood this quite, but in 77, you're 17, you lead the nation in number of wins. And so you go into all these different tracks and
Right.
I've never asked you this before, but all of a sudden, you go there and, well, I'm at Belmont, I'm in the 5th race and I'm aboard this horse. You've never been on that horse before. How the heck do you
Well, I try to, people always ask me that question a lot. And, really, you're like a test pilot, you're like, somebody test driving a car, in that 4 minutes that you've got to, warm the horse up, you've got to get the feeling of the horse's mouth, kind of try to understand, how, if he's a shy horse or if he's a nasty horse, or lazy horse. Obviously the trainer will tell you what he knows, but even the trainer doesn't know everything because they've never ridden it. So there's there's riding things that, you know, they can't quite understand all the time. But, you know, you just got to get the feel for him, and then you got to, you know, take your best shot. And obviously the guys that are, you know, capable of picking up those little idiosyncrasies quickly, you know, tend to, you know, have more success.
Now, was there any animosity towards you in '77? I mean, you're the young kid. You're 17 years old, and you're winning everything. How did the older jockeys treat you?
You know, they treated me well. I think it was just so phenomenal what was going on. You know, I mean, yeah, they were trying to beat me. They were trying every which way to figure out how to beat me. But, you know, at the end of the day, they just kind of shrugged and said, hey, you know, way to go. You're a freak, you know, stuff like that. But anyway, it was, you know, it was just one of those things, you know, you get on a roll and you get the right people behind you with the right horses, and, you know, then you're hard to stop, you know.
You know, so in '78, you win the Triple Crown aboard Affirmed. It was the great duel with Alidar in all three of the Triple Crown races. How did you secure the mount with Affirmed?
I had just come back from an injury. I'd been out for a month, and I rode for Las Barrera. Went on a horse called Little Miracle, and which, you know, happened to be a half brother to Affirmed. And Affirmed hadn't run yet. I know Affirmed had run while I was away for the first time, and or a couple times, I guess he'd run. And anyway, Angel Cordero had ridden him, and then he went out to the West Coast, and Lafitte Pincaille rode him, and they both won on him. So obviously, we went to Saratoga, and obviously Angel was asked, I believe, first. And when he had found another horse that he thought was better, you know, Affirmed was kind of a lazy horse, so, you know, I don't think anybody at that point realized how good he really was. And Lafitte, you know, obviously Saratoga is not the easiest place in the world to get to. So he didn't want to fly all the way back there, because at the time, the Sanford, which is the race I rode him in, was like a $50,000 stake race. So, you know, it was, you know, he decided it wasn't worth it. And so they asked me. And to be quite honest, the first time I rode him, you know, obviously he won, but, you know, he didn't, you know, I didn't get off of him and think, oh my gosh, you know, this is the best horse I've ever sat on. But obviously I rode him again in the Hopeful about 3 weeks later, month later, whatever it was, against Alidar. And when we hooked up at the head of the stretch that day, and I mean, I've never been on a horse that accelerated, you know, that fast. And that was the day I said, I'm not letting this guy go. No way. So, you know, it was the start of a great rivalry with Alidar.
Tell us about the pressures that mount. You know, you win the Derby, and then it's to the Preakness, and then it's to the Bell. You know, the stakes get really large the farther you go. Yeah. You know, what's your thought process?
Well, you know, for me, you know, obviously the Derby, I mean, obviously, I was, you know, nervous in the sense that, you know, it's the Derby, you know, it's my hometown. I had, you know, I think my dad had to get 50 or 60 tickets for all of our friends and family that wanted to come to the Derby that year. But, you know, I was obviously excited more than nervous, because I was just, you know, happy to have it be riding in the Kentucky Derby and have a chance. And then of course we won, and then we went to the Preakness, and you know, still, I mean, you know, I was excited. It wasn't more than nervous. You know, then we won that. And I'll tell you, the longest 3 weeks of my life, it was between the Preakness and the Belmont, because, you know, I started getting interviewed by, you know, they were, you know, Japan, Australia. I mean, everybody around the world was, you know, taking an interest, because it was such a great rivalry. And I was a kid, and, you know, the Calumet farm, you know, the Wolfsons, it was such an interesting story. So that was the longest 3 weeks, because, you know, the one thing I didn't want to do was, you know, I didn't want it to be my fault that, you know, we didn't win the Triple Crown, you know. So, but to be quite honest, you know, most big events like that, you know, quite often they come up, you know, an anticlimax. I mean, I think the 1978 Belmont was the greatest race ever run. considering the importance of the race and the fact that they were two great horses, it was just such a duel. I think one of the sports writers said when at the end of the race, there's a photograph of a firm looking back at looking at Aladar, and it says it's like Ahab or Moby Dick looking back at Ahab. But it was just it was an incredible race, and it was an incredible way to finish that that Triple Crown.
And now it's time for our second trivia question of the night. And again, send your answers to info@KenAndersonAlliance.org. And the first one, correct answer gets a Ken Anderson MVP t-shirt. Everybody else, Ken Anderson Alliance Hot Cold Cup. But in 1976, your first year racing, the question is, on what track did Steve Cauthen get his first win? And we'll give you that answer a little bit later. But now, Steve, you win the Triple Crown in 78, and then you decide to go to Europe and race. What was kind of behind all that?
Well, not long after I won the Triple Crown, I had a fall up at Saratoga, and I fractured my knee. And, I came back and, things just weren't really clicking, it just wasn't working. And all of a sudden it was, wasn't like I'd forgotten how to ride, but just, nothing was going right. And, like a lot of things, you tend to lose confidence. I went out to California, obviously, with following a firm back out to California for the winter. And, nothing, I started, not winning races, and I went through a 110 race losing streak. Now, which, people act like, oh my God, but that was like probably 3 weeks. But again, that was the second longest 3 weeks of my life because the reporters were, like, oh, Cauthen's forgotten how to ride and, all this stuff. And
you're
anyway,
like 19 years old now.
I'm 18 years old. Yeah. Like I said, I won the Triple Crown 2 months or 3 months ago or whatever. And all of a sudden everybody's saying I'm washed up and I forgot how to ride. But anyway, I finally broke the streak, and I was determined to stay out in California to work through it all. And but at that time, an owner from England, Robert Sangster, came and he actually had his agent come to me and offer me the job to come ride in Europe the next spring. Well, actually, it was only going to be a month and a half away from the time, because it was sort of February time, I guess, in California that winter. And I said, well, I'm not sure about that, and I thought about it, and we ended up having a dinner, and I sat down with Robert Sangster himself, the owner, and he said, Steve, the thing is, you're going to probably be needing to come to Europe in the long run because of your weight anyway. And because, my weight had started to gradually, I was just, naturally maturing, I guess. And when I thought about it, I thought, he's right. And so I thought, why not give it a try? If I don't like it, I can come back, after a year, after a season. But, once I got over there, I just, I knew that's where I would ride out my career because I like the people. I like the way they trained the horses. I just like the whole setup. And obviously the weight, proved to be, a big factor because I think that I stayed in America, I probably would have been lucky to ride, 7 or 8 years total. And by going to Europe, I was able to ride 17 years. I rode 14 seasons over there and just a little under 3 years here. So I rode 17 years instead of, 7 or 8, which I probably, because I just couldn't, my weight, I wouldn't have been able to do the weights here.
No, I was only at one track, and it was over in Ireland, and the horses ran in the wrong direction. Was that all over Europe they did that?
Well, they have left-handed tracks, they have right-handed tracks, they have figure of 8 tracks. They've got 1.25 miles absolutely dead straight at Newmarket. The tracks are just basically the tracks were laid out over cross country, 250, 300 years ago. and that's where they still actually are. Now they have rails and things. Back in the old days, they just had little bushes to kind of guide the jockeys to where they were supposed to go. But yeah, it's undulating. Obviously the Epsom Derby, which is one of their big races, that track is just an amazing track to ride. Because it's like a horseshoe, but so you break at the right hand side of the horseshoe. You kind of go right-handed uphill, and it levels off at the top, and then like literally they call it Tattenham Corner. I mean, it's like a 100-foot drop within a furlong. I mean, that's a serious, it's downhill. I mean, it's almost, like running down a hill. And the camber up the straight is, pretty dramatic as well. So, the courses are just all different, and it took me a while to get used to them. But once I did, I started, showing them a few American tricks as well.
Yeah. Well, now for the important stuff, and I know, the Derby's next weekend.
Yeah.
And I know that's why a lot of my buddies are listening. Can anybody beat Tis the Law in the Derby?
Well, based on what I saw at Saratoga, I would say no, because he just looked, tremendous. He seems like I've watched him breeze a couple times since, and he just looks like he's really in the zone and doing everything so easily. But that's why they run races, is because you never know. But he does look very, very strong, and he just looks like he's a very happy horse. He's just cruising around that track in the mornings. So right now I would have to say no. I think he looks pretty tough to beat.
All right, give me one place show.
Well, Art Collector is the horse. I think he won the Ellis, and he won the Bluegrass as well. But I like him a lot. And then probably the horse that I would say might finish third is the Horse of Baffert, which it's like our authenticated.
Honor AP?
No, oh, well, if you like Honor AP, then bet on them. But no, I was thinking of Authenticate.
Oh, okay. Well, how about Oaks on Friday? Swiss Skydiver, that looks like the heavy favorite.
She does, and again, she almost looks as tough as the other is Tis the Law, because she's just been training good. She annihilated the field up at Saratoga as well, almost in the same sort of fashion as Tis the Law did. She ran against the Colts in the Bluegrass, and obviously made a good showing of herself. She was second that day, so I mean she looks tough. But there's the thing about the Oaks and the Derby and having this extra time, the fact that it's run at this time of the year. There's a lot of lightly raced horses that are still on the upswing, and you just never know. On Oaks Day and Derby Day, one of those horses can jump up and go crazy.
Yeah. So Citation wins the Triple Crown in 1948. Then it's 25 years before Secretariat wins in 73. You got Seattle Slew in 77, Affirmed in 78. Yep. Then it's another 37 years, and you've got American Pharaoh in 2015, Justify in 2018. It seems like it's hard to win this Derby, but when they come in bunches.
It seems that way, and it's crazy, because I remember after I won the Triple Crown, people were starting to say like, oh, the Triple Crown's getting too easy. We're gonna they're gonna have to do something to make it tougher. Well, then 37 years, amongst that 37 years, people were starting to say, gosh, this is crazy. Nobody's ever going to win the Triple Crown again. We'll have to make it easier. But yeah, it does seem to go, and, it's, I guess the good Lord, I think I always feel like it's, part of fate that, these horses come and,
now they've already had the Belmont. Tis the Law won that. It was at a shorter distance than it normally is when it's the third of the Triple Crown, and now it's the Derby. Then you've got the Preakness in October. Does this take away from, if Tis the Law does win it, does it take away from his greatness by the change of the races? There's more time in between. They're more rested. They don't have the distances.
Yeah, no, I think, the fact that he also won, the Travers Stakes. So he won the Belmont, which is run a slightly different distance, but that's obviously because it ended up being the first race. Nobody wants to be running a mile and a half, and then have to drop back down to, a mile and a quarter and a mile and 3/16. But so he wins the Belmont. He won the Travers very impressively. If he wins the Derby and the, Preakness now, I don't think anybody will, do anything but call him a great horse, and he'll be a deserving Triple Crown winner for sure.
So tell me now, what are you doing these days?
Well, I've got my farm. I breed horses. I race horses. I've got 5 horses in training. We won a race up at Saratoga, earlier in the meet, and we're going to run her again on the 3rd of September. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun. Obviously, the sales is coming up, so I'm working my tail off, getting my horses all shined up, for the sale. And yeah, the kids are all growing up, so we're sort of almost empty nesters, but not quite.
So what are you doing? I'm doing a little research, and obviously you heard by Johnny Bench research was not all accurate. Are you still doing stuff with Dixiana Farms?
I am, yeah, I am. And in fact, I'm the racing manager. I consult on, different things. I go and look at the yearlings and the 2-year-olds and try to place them with the right trainers and all that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed, working with Mr. Shively and his team. He's got a beautiful farm. I mean, it's probably 900 acres of the most beautiful land you'll ever see, with all white fences, and it's a gorgeous farm. And he's got some really, really nice horses. Again, he's also got, I think, about 12 or 13 horses going to the sale. But of course, his horses are by Tappet and $300,000 and Uncle Mo and those kind of horses. So his are obviously much earlier in the sale than mine. But yeah, it's been great fun.
Well, now it's time for the answer to tonight's trivia question for Steve Cauthen. Is on what racetrack did he get his first win? And Steve, you want to tell us that answer?
Well, it's Belterra, but not back then. It was called River Downs. So yeah, River Downs, 1976.
Yeah, aboard Red Pipe, if I'm not.
Aboard Red Pipe for my uncle. Yeah, my uncle Tom Bischoff, and yeah, it was Don Warshire was the owner. He was a gray horse. He came from dead last. He was about 20 lengths last and came up and won by 2 lengths. So yeah, it was a great day for me.
What does the 16-year-old do to celebrate his first win? It's not like you can go out and drink champagne, have a beer.
Yeah, no. It was just my family and I. We went down to the restaurant just down the road, and yeah, we had a big celebration dinner, and it was a great time. As you know, when you throw your first touchdown pass, in high school or whatever. So yeah.
Well, and I think I've got the first ball from maybe one of my first touchdowns. But did you get a horseshoe or something like that for your?
Well, no. Luckily, my dad, after I won the Triple Crown, of course, because back then, like I said, I was a real light jockey when I won the Triple Crown. I weighed 97 pounds, I think, when I won the Triple Crown. But my dad, it didn't take long before I wasn't using that saddle anymore because it was too heavy. My dad saved it, and he and my father-in-law had that, and my whips and my boots, put into a box, to hang on the wall. So that's kind of one of my favorite souvenirs. Yeah.
You playing any golf nowadays still?
I do. Not as much as I was. I worked real hard and got down to a 6 handicap, and then I realized I couldn't get any better, so I kind of lost interest. But I'm probably a 13 handicap, and I play maybe 20 times a summer and have fun.
Well, how about the next time I'm up in Cincinnati, I give you a call, you and I go out and play.
We will do it, absolutely, anytime.
Well, Stevie, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. And what I'd really like to do is have you give me a tour of your farm, because I think that's.
I would love to. Yeah, you got to come. Yeah, I can't believe you haven't done it already.
Well, I know. We'll make that happen.
Okay, let's do it.
Steve, thanks so much. Always a pleasure to see you, and we'll have you back on again.
Sounds great. Good talking to you, Ken.
Good talking to you. I tell you, one of the really class guys, Stevie Cauthen, and Kevin, I want to bring you back in here now and kind of tell us maybe some of the latest things that are going on with Ken Anderson Alliance.
Yep. So we have, through COVID, we had to shut down a lot of our programming, but we have recently gotten back out in the community with a number of our participants. We support close to 215 people in our Engage program, and we now have gotten back out to about 12 outings monthly that are all social outdoor gatherings we can do safely. So, that's been starting up. Our work program is back to full force at the O2 Urban Farms, where we employ 7 adults there, and they are working pretty busy lately, trying to keep up with production. And we've got some new retail sites for lettuces available there, including here in our office building in Cincinnati. So some exciting stuff there. And the retail program is doing good. And on our Live project, we are just kind of waiting the storm right now until we get through this current environment with COVID and get better into a better climate for fundraising. And we'll kick off our capital campaign and start moving forward on the community we're building.
Yeah, and one of the exciting things we've got coming up in October is our golf outing that I have with Dave Lapham that benefits not only the Ken Anderson Alliance, but the Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati. And you can go to our website, find information on that. And we've got a great raffle item for that as well, that 4 people are going to take a private plane from Cincinnati to Kohler, Wisconsin. It's 2 nights at Kohler up at Whistling Straits and 3 rounds of golf. So make sure you go ahead and get your raffle tickets for that as well. That ought to be a fun trip.
Yeah, that's a great item. And then, we also have, that's coming up in October. And right now we have our raffles going on for the Happy Hour series. And people should visit our website and get their chances to win either a autographed jersey, helmet, dinner with you and Christy, or some Ultimate Air Shuttle round trip tickets. So
this has been fun that we've started back up Keystones with Kenny. And I can't thank Chris at Stagnaro and Deanna with Molson Coors for sponsoring us. It's fun, and we'll be back on it in 2 weeks. We're doing it the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of every month. And coming up, our next one is September 10th. That is opening night of the NFL. Please let us get there. It's a Thursday night. And before that game, Archie Manning will be our guest. He and I were drafted in the same year, 1971, a great guy, a classy guy. I just texted him, they missed the first hurricane. They were hoping the second one was going to miss as well. So I got to touch base with him, but he's got some great stories. And I think he's got a couple of kids, some guy named Peyton and Eli that he might be able to share some information on too.
Yeah. I saw Peyton play in, I think Knoxville at UT. Did a pretty good job too.
Yeah, no, not bad. So that'll be a fun time, but that'll be September 10th. The next time we get together, it'll be 5 o'clock. It'll be here, the Keystone Light Studio in my garage. It's Keystones with Kenny. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We appreciate another good time.